This is Jerry Seib with the Wall Street Journal. I'm joined by my colleague Monica Langley, who's just written a very interesting profile of a very interesting player in politics in America today, Rand Paul, somebody most Americans hadn't even heard of a couple of years ago. The takeaway from your profile, Monica, was, as much as anything, this is a guy who wants to be not just a player, but maybe a player in the next presidential sweepstakes. How did you come to the conclusion that's one of the things that's motivating him?
That's right, Jerry. You know, just even a few months ago, he was considered kind of a fringe politician that was put in office by the Tea Party in 2010 from his home state of Kentucky. But since his filibuster on the floor of the Senate against drone attacks, he has taken off. And it's not just that he's taken off for that one incident. My story shows, after reporting, that he is clearly wanting to be a player in 2016 and is seriously considering running for president. And you can see that when you look at his actions in talking to different groups and in his positions.
His positions meaning he's doing what that suggests a presidential ambition is lurking in there somewhere?
Well, you know, he had called himself a libertarian and a constitutional conservative.
Which is pretty much what his father always has been.
But his father, Ron Paul, who had ran for president 3 times, was pegged as something of an ideological gadfly. So Rand Paul knows he has to move more to the mainstream to reach a broader spectrum of voters. So you see him reaching out on immigration now to say that he is for a path to citizenship as long as illegal immigrants are working in this country. He even went a couple weeks ago to historically black university, Howard University, and spoke to them about liberalizing drug laws. So he is reaching to a broader spectrum, not just more mainstream Republicans, but even striking a chord with some liberals and independents.
And I think to the mainstream of his party, most importantly on some foreign policy issues, because that's really where Ron Paul always was an outlier in the Republican Party.
That's right. For example, his father was against any bases, U.S. bases overseas. And he says he's not an isolationist. The Sun says, I'm not an isolationist. I am for limited intervention. But there is a need for the U.S. to be in certain places. For example, he went in January to Israel and actually met with the Prime Minister and came back and said a very pro-Israel statement that any attack against Israel would be attack against the U.S. So he is taking these kinds of actions that would show he is different from his father.
And beyond that, he doesn't deny that he's thinking about running for president. He doesn't say, I've decided, but he doesn't say, oh, I'm not thinking about that, which so many politicians at this stage who are trying to play coy might do. That's not what he does.
No, he said to me, I'm seriously considering it. I want to be a national force. He doesn't say, for sure I'm going to run for president. I want to, but no matter what, I want to be a national force and I want to shape the Republican Party. And one thing that's not been reported is that he and his advisors met in December and came up with this game plan for him to run for president if he chooses to do so. And they have mapped out all these actions, which started with the trip to Israel, which also has included reaching out on immigration, speaking to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, speaking to minority groups, and other things which we have seen in the last few weeks, including the drone filibuster, to show that he is going to be a player.
So, Monica, the thing that most people want to know about a personality like this who kind of rushes onto the national scene is, what's he like? So what's he like?
It's so interesting. He's iconoclastic, but he's also very understated. You know, to go hang out with him, which I did both in Washington and in Kentucky. You know, he's 5'8", he's slight, and you could almost get lost in the crowd, except now he's become such a big figure. People are yelling, Rand Paul for president,
but
we
you don't
love
get the
you.
feeling there's any of that politician bombast and
None of that. He's not a backslapping politician. In fact, when people try to talk to him and schmooze him, he's not a schmoozer. He will get involved in a very serious conversation about what's happening in Washington or government abuse. He's very low-key.
So I guess we'll get to figure out whether that works on the presidential campaign or not, won't we?
That's right.
It's a fascinating story about somebody we'll be hearing a lot more about. Monica, thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
And I'm Jerry Seib with the Wall Street Journal.